Thanks for watching. We begin with the guy who's the biggest name in the movie industry, and the computer industry, and the music industry. Tech Now Scott McGrew says it seems the rest of the world could learn something from Steve Jobs.
And I think that that same spirit can be put into products.
The story of Steve Jobs has been told 1,000 times before, here in the classic Silicon Valley documentary, Triumph of the Nerds.
And to me, the spark of that was that there was something beyond sort of what you see every day.
Steve Jobs, barefoot computer hacker turned high-tech magnate. A guy who can announce he's changing the color of a product, and news outlets will carry the announcement as breaking news.
But it's so beautifully set up. I mean, they send out an invite to the press and they say, hey, look, we've got a surprise. We're not going to tell you what it is. You're going to have to turn up to do it, and people do, don't they? I mean, it's now become. It's so big that it's making international headlines, the fact that they're sending out these invites, so they're going to have a product release. And there's speculation that makes the Wall Street Journal, the International Herald Tribune, the New York Times, CNN.
Today, we get to talk about music.
He's been doing it a good long time.
Milestone product, Macintosh. Many of us have been working on Macintosh for over 2 years now, and it has turned out insanely great.
He's been doing it so long, it's become a Saturday Night Live spoof.
Can't wait to get one of these. iPhone. Everything you will ever need.
How much battery life does it have?
20 minutes.
Steve Jobs, everybody.
So when author Leander Kahney sat down to write a book about Steve Jobs, he didn't write a biography. Inside Steve's brain is an attempt to understand why Steve Jobs makes the decisions he does so that others can emulate them.
Right, but we get to see the end result of that. I mean, there's a long creative process that goes on behind the scenes, a lot of trial and error, a lot of editing, and we see the final product. And that was what Inside Steve's brain was trying to look at, was that creative process. How do they come up with these, things that we think we didn't even know we needed until they produced them.
It's called the iPod Touch.
No one in the history of American business has been so successful in so many different ways. Steve Jobs owns more of the Disney Corporation than any other person, thanks to the sale of his groundbreaking movie studio, Pixar, which made the world's first computer-generated feature film.
Toy Story.
Today we celebrate the first glorious anniversary of the Information Purification Directives.
While he didn't write or direct this commercial, he did decide the 1984 advertisement for the Macintosh computer would run only one time during the Super Bowl. No one had ever spent that much time, money, or effort on a Super Bowl commercial. Steve Jobs invented the Super Bowl commercial as an event.
One cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
His company's music store, iTunes, is the largest seller of music in the United States. Music that plays on a product that has 87% market share. His retail stores have, foot for foot, some of the biggest revenues in history. He set the cell phone industry on its ear with the introduction of the iPhone.
I'm so happy you're here.
Oh, and we almost forgot, he was one of the two guys to invent the modern personal computer.
one of the things I found out was that he applies the same kind of creative process to each of those different things that he does. And, you know, they're remarkably successful, aren't they? It's like one hit product after another.
And these new Nanos have left our factories already. They've shipped today.
But rather than want to stay close to him, says Caney, many employees at Apple actively try to avoid Jobs and his legendary temper.
You don't fit in here.
In fact, he's as well known for his anger as his brilliance.
Why even wasting our time?
And yet, Jobs develops incredibly lucrative relationships with very pleasant and talented engineers, designers, and filmmakers.
How will I ever find anyone else who knows how to fill me up with gas?
That it's not just screaming and shouting to get people to do things. I mean, he has an amazing passion for bringing technology to ordinary people, and he's able to imbue that down through the organization. Everyone at Apple is, you know, says it's kind of a scary place to work. It's very demanding. I mean, they're really expected to deliver and to do insanely great things. But no one quits either, and they all really believe, you know, really wholeheartedly in making a change, and they're leading the technology industry, and they're really making a difference. So there's so much passion at that company, you know, for doing things, which comes from Jobs and his charisma and his leadership. That you know, on the one side it's tough, but on the other hand, you know, they're having a great time. They're really doing great things.
Doing great things has led Apple to dominate some markets. Not all. Its market share in computers is still small, but domination, says Caney, was never the point. Apple makes the best device it can, he says, because that's simply its corporate culture.
It's true, like with the iPod, it was like, you know, they wanted to make a really good, the best digital music player they could. And I think the same is true with the iPhone. The end point is not to like shake up a huge industry.
There are lots of business lessons you can carry away from Steve Jobs. The book, Inside Steve's Brain, points out Jobs is as proud of the devices Apple has not done as the devices it did do. Jobs has ignored calls for a tablet computer. He's ignored calls for Macs that will work better with video games. And he avoided the cell phone market until he thought Apple was ready.